emotional triggers can be silencing to the true voice that wants to speak out, but when that cry is not aligned in the right way or it goes on for too long, now you're whining. Now where was your intention in the first place? You're talking on for so long, you don't even know what you're really talking about now.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rally Cry podcast. My name is Angel.
And my name is Tyler.
And you guys are here because you don't want to live in the past, because you want to create your future, because you got to live in the moment now and able to create that. And I just want to let you guys know, if you haven't already, I think you guys did already, but I just want to make sure for the ones that are listening, haven't, like this video, because we're going to be talking about something that is important and intelligent. I just foreshadowed something. And if you haven't followed us on Instagram at therallycry.podcast, do so, because every time when we make a post, we ask you guys questions so that you could get more involved. And if you have anything you want to say or learned, we'll make sure that we'll put it on here and give you guys a shout out, because that means the world to us.
Woo!
Yes. And today we're going to get right into it. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, because people don't be talking about that, especially guys don't be talking about it, or they don't embrace it enough because of the society that we live in. So the question I want to ask you, for whoever is listening, have you ever been in a relationship with someone that you felt didn't understand you? And no matter how you over explain yourself, they still don't get it. Isn't that frustrating?
That's extremely frustrating. Tell me why.
So it's okay that there's some things that people just might not get. No matter what you do, you try to explain and they still don't get it. Okay, you know what? That's fine. But there's some situations where they need to understand so that you can have a flourishing relationship that goes with growth. If you can't understand one another, then how are you going to be able to go against the obstacles, right, that are in front of you? If I tell you, oh, jump over, and you're like, nah, that's not that's not what you're supposed to do, and you're just not understanding each other, then you're not going to go nowhere on that journey of fulfilling your relationships. So emotional intelligence, you might ask yourself, okay, what does emotional intelligence really mean? Does it mean where, like, I'm aware of my feelings? Yes and no. Emotional intelligence is a capacity to self-regulate your emotions with control. You got to reflect. You got to be more proactive rather than reactive. Right, Tyler?
Yeah, like I think when you talk about proactive and reactive, you got to think about how, like, the negatives that come around. So instead of positive and negative, it now turns to reactive, and that's the negative feeling. And how when we already think negative, or when we look at things right away because we have to protect ourselves, so we're expecting something bad, something wrong, something that's not going to be right with us. And that's why a lot of times we could argue. A lot of times we could be in a situation where we may not see the true situation for what it really is. And that's why with emotional intelligence, it brings the clarity that we need, and it comes by a lot faster when we're at peace with ourselves. So that's why I think when we have that peace, we actually endure a lot less situations than the average person, because anybody that's, let's say, toxic, they're going to, if you're friends with toxic people, you know they always have something new to tell you. They always have a new story about, like, hey guys, guess what happened this time? And haven't you noticed that they're always oblivious to what's really going on or what they do? And when you ask them, like, what are they going to do about it, they're like, I don't know. I mean, I'm chilling. That doesn't do anything. And with chaos, people want to thrive in chaos. That's why they don't make the right decision, which is the hard decision, because you have to put in the work. So it's something that when you can reflect and you can acknowledge what is there, that's what makes somebody emotionally intelligent and also emotionally aware.
Exactly. It's like that ladder. You want to be aware of your emotions, and then after you're aware of it, you are intelligent on the emotions that are coming in, able to regulate it so you can express yourself in the most effective way. Because it could be non-effective when you're reactive and you're saying how you feel, but that doesn't make you emotionally intelligent. Because how many times do we get into relationships and these arguments go nowhere because both people are upset, frustrated, and we always hear the term, oh, I'm tired of this, or I'm tired of that, or I'm tired of you.
Mm.
I'm tired of hearing the same thing. Like we talked about this last week, or this was 2 days ago, or why are we talking about a month later? I thought we already squashed that, but apparently they weren't done talking about it. And what happens is that when they are all upset and these feelings are all flustered, these are emotional triggers. It's fine to be triggers, but there's triggers that you have to deal with, and you have to self-regulate. You as a person can only do what you can do. If that other person can't do it for themselves, you can't help them for it. You can try as best as you can and be the motivation to how you talk about how you feel to them, and they'd be like, okay, I can see that you're talking to me with respect and you're not disrespecting me. I feel like I should be able to do the same because I value us and I value this. So therefore, let's make the work for it. And so with these emotional triggers, they're like gunfire. Think about it.
Mm.
Just you shoot, boom, right? And then you try to say, oh, I didn't mean to say that. But say what you mean what you say. And now you hurt this person and they're left bleeding. Hopefully they don't bleed out and they can recover, but then there might be a scar afterwards. And when we have a scar, what does it do?
Scab up if you don't take care of it.
Yes, which is
Get infected,
terrible.
possibly.
Yes, affected as well. And we don't want that. Or even if things, all said and done, there's a
Mm.
scar. And then that scar reminds them about all the pain that you put them through. And then we have something bigger than that. What's that? Resentment.
Oh.
And trauma. And trauma. You can say trauma too. So trauma and resentment. Now they're resenting the fact that, oh, you haven't been treating me right, or all these things. And now for how you treat them, they try to look for it elsewhere. Now we got bigger problems just because you wasn't emotionally intelligent to regulate your emotions. And it's always one side first, and then it happens to another side. It's like a relationship is like a building. When one side of the foundation isn't sustainable and it breaks down, then the whole building breaks down. You need
Mm.
two people to make understanding of what's going on. You can't build a house without its frame. But if you keep framing the other person for what they're doing and not seeing it for yourself and reflecting, then you're both going to go down. And that house is not going to go nowhere, and nobody's going to move into that.
I love how Angel's bringing that up. Like, there's so many things that came to my mind while listening to that. Well, first off, when he was talking about scarred, can't forgive you, all these things, it made me think of Giveon. I'm not even gonna lie. Oh, Scarred, that went crazy. And
Just one last time. Don't let me forget it. I don't want to say it. Let's not overthink it, baby.
like, I think honestly, when we get into arguments, we don't want to be hurtful. It's just that we're hurt ourselves, and when we put that out, we're
Mm-hmm.
just expressing how we feel on the inside, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel okay. And it's almost as if like our subconscious is speaking. So since I'm hurting, I want you to hurt, and we don't take the time like, I'm hurting right now. Do I have the capacity to give a handout even though I'm hurting? Because somebody could always be going through something, and
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, it's not like we're taking on uh, a burden or anything like that. It's just that how much can you handle? Because life is difficult, and life does has moments where that hard work seems impossible. But that's why we still have to go through that adversity and figure things out. Because I'm sure that when we were all kids, we all experienced this. We're walking on a curb, we're trying to walk straight in a line so that way we could see like, hey, yeah, I got good balance. But then let's say you fall and scrape your knee, and like Angel said, what does a wound do after it's open? Once a wound is open, it's exposed to so much, and with that exposure, it can cripple you from the inside. So when you're exposed to too much negative talk and somebody's disrespecting you and all these things, it makes you feel like a ball of like emotion that's ready to erupt. You're ready to lash that back because you're just spitting back at what's been given to you. And when we can respect each other when we're talking about our feelings, you know how healthier the conversations can be, where it seems like nothing could ever hurt me. Nothing, like it almost seems impossible that this is happening, and that's why it seems like a God-given moment, or like an angel has to be next to me right now because I'm actually having a conversation, whether it's with my significant other in a relationship or being able to have that difficult conversation with a close friend of mine. And that's why I appreciate Angel in certain moments where we can be like, hey, I know that you're going through this, and let me ask you a couple things so that way I could make sure that I'm understanding. And that's why with active listening, emotional triggers can be silencing. to the true voice that wants to speak out. But when that cry is not aligned in the right way, or it goes on for too long, now you're whining. Now, where was your intention in the first place? Talking on for so long, you don't even know what you're really talking about now. So, like, emotional intelligence is really, really important. And, like, you could be young and you could be 18 and you know emotional intelligence better than a 30-year-old, but that's because of what they're exposed to. That's because of what they allow themselves to take in. And when you're exposed to something that's such a bad influence, you you lose yourself. And you don't ever want to lose yourself. You matter at the end of the day. So make that decision to put your best foot forward and think about yourself and speak up. And whether that's, hey, I can't do this right now, or hey, I need some time. Let me get some space.
Oh my God. Yes. 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 Preach. Oh, I hope you guys were really paying attention to that because Tyler, you was just saying so many real facts. It's just like the first thing you said about how when someone is reactive a certain way and they coming off so wrong, it's usually because they're hurting inside. It might not necessarily have anything to do with you, but whatever they've gone through, their traumas, their childhood traumas, all the experiences they went through, and they try to put it onto you. And maybe there's some influence that why it's been reminded that, you know, they put it onto you because you trigger them for it. And it's just like hurt people. And it's just a matter of them having to regulate those emotions and make sure that they don't do anything that hurts other people just because that person is hurting. Or even if it's you and you are hurting, you shouldn't do the due diligence to hurt someone else. That's not going to find any love. It's not going to attract any healing because all you're doing is giving out hurt. And the world is a mirror. What you give out is what you're going to get back, even to what you say to yourself. If I say, oh, I'm not going to find anything, I'm not going to find anybody, or I'm not going to find the one that I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, it's going to tell you right back, yeah, you're not, because you're giving that affirmation. You shouldn't keep giving yourself the litany of thinking that this is not going to happen. And litany, if you guys don't know, is it's like a prayer, and it's part of a ceremony. And it's just like you don't want to put your life at a ceremony and put your love at death because you want to keep litanizing the fact that you're not going to find the one in your life. Don't do that. Make sure that you stay focused on loving yourself and having a good heart. So the real question is, how can I be more emotionally intelligent so that I can manage through my emotions? And I want you guys to understand this. Just because you're emotionally intelligent, it doesn't mean you won't hurt someone. If you're taking the chance at love, you're also taking the chance at hurting. You hurt them. Love is a feeling. It goes ups and down. Feelings go up and down. So you need to understand that love is not one-sided. There's always two sides of a coin. And I just want to let you guys know there's good news. After all the things we've been mentioning, you don't have to be emotionally intelligent at the peak so that you could get into a relationship. So if you guys are listening, just know you could still get into a relationship and still work on your emotional intelligence while you're in it. Because for most people, love can be a motivation to re-educate your heart, to re-understand who you are and have this person remind you of who you are, because that is what real love is. But everything is full of emotion, and we need to make sure that we get out of the emotion, think more clearly, because we deserve the love that we dream of with deep intimacy, mutual kindness, real commitment, and soulful caring, simply because we can empathize and share our emotional experiences without being triggered by them and shooting a fire that might hurt them. Put
And
down silence mode.
like, and as you say that, I really did resonate with soulful caring, because when I think of soulful caring, I think of, as you're bringing up earlier, you were saying how you have to get, like, there's no 50-25 or no 70-30, like you have to bring 100%. However, now if we get into soulful caring, and this is an intimate relationship and you're with somebody for a long time, now it's acknowledging when they can't give you 40, they can't give you the 40 when you're at 60. So what can we do? How can we communicate so that way this can be an easy day, so there's no leading to burnout, so that way we're not depleting from each other even more than we have to. Because then let's say it's thinking that somebody's at 100, maybe somebody's at 70, somebody says they're at like a 10 right now, and the other person says they're at like a 20. Now where's the rest of that 80? or the
Mm-hmm.
person at 70 that's going to balance them, because that day, whether it's, let's say I haven't reached my goals for the day, let's say I've had some bad news and it's been weighing on my mind despite I've been able to stay occupied. Let's say it's any of these things that happen. Having that communication with your significant other is going to let you know, I don't want to provoke them in any way. And the last thing I want to do is make them feel like that they can't express themselves to me in a vulnerable moment. And it's not that they believe that they can't express things to you. It's the fact that in that moment, they're blinded by their own pain. And it's the same thing as I said earlier, being blinded by that pain, you're going to look and accept anything that you see as an ounce as a negativity. So once they spot that, now here they are thinking, I don't think I could talk to this person. I don't feel like I can be myself around this person because there's so much I have going on, and I don't really have anybody else I want to talk to about it but them. And now it doesn't seem like I could do that anymore. And when they start thinking like that, that's when they start doubting you. They start not
Mm.
believing in you. And as I said in videos before, you want to be able to start with your consistency. So then when you lead to consistency, now you lead into trusting you. So when being consistent and people are trusting you, now they can predict what exactly the kind of character that you are. And when you can consistently do this, they can only continue trusting you and predicting, like, hey, I can expect this from this person, because they've not only let me be comfortable, but I've also seen how disciplined they are to keep on doing this no matter what. Because not every day is the same, but we can be grateful that every day isn't the same, just for the fact that we can experience more life, be grateful to breathe another breath of fresh air, and experience what God has given us to be our purpose and what our purpose truly is. And that's being able to help one another, be there for one another, and live life amongst one another.
Mm. Amen. Yo. God damn. Literally. I love that. I completely agree. I think the society that we've lived in for, at least for us, 25 years is just to show that it's only getting worse, and we don't want to get it worse. And the only way we could get it better is when we individually work on ourselves and share what we did for ourselves so they can do the same work. And so we're going to talk about 5 key components that we need to understand so that we could have good relationships that involve emotional intelligence. And as Tyler always says, it's the 5 finger discount. And we're going to make it really quick for you guys. So if you guys want to go back to it and you want to re-listen, it'll be real quick just to give you a good refresher. So number 1 is
Uno.
friendship. I cannot stress it enough that we get into relationships with strangers. We don't even know who they are. Friendship is the foundation on where both people can mutually respect one another and hold and build a natural intimacy, because mutual is friendship and is when both people are going towards the same direction. We both want to go for the same thing and it's mutual. Usually, we talked about in our last episode when it comes into social expectations, or why when it comes to looking for a relationship, we expect certain things. So when you go into a relationship, a friendship at least, you don't expect to pressure anyone. So when you are having this nice natural friendship, it's more so, okay, this is a person that I can feel comfortable with. I'm not pressuring them and expecting anything. They're just my friend. And that friend, a lot of times, really turns into a relationship. So that's number 1.
Yeah, and as Angel's saying that, that's why, like, this is something I said in high school. I was saying this in high school. You want to have a friend first before you get into a relationship, and when that bond is molded properly, and you guys take the time to know each other, and even enjoy activities, because when you're in a relationship, you're already advancing to the romantics. Like when you're dating somebody, you're trying to rush to the romantics, where or when you guys don't even have chemistry yet. And when you're friends, you take that time to develop that chemistry, see what you guys both like, see what are some things that maybe you like more than the other, things like that. So definitely, I would love to have a friend first before I start dating.
I agree. Number 2 is communication. We said it plenty of times. We're going to keep embedding into your brain that communication is key. We
Commu-
talked about it, I think, in our 42nd episode. You guys got to go check it out. And so we said in that episode, and we'll say here, is that what you say and how you say are both just important. And I got a study here for you guys. So I want you guys to listen to this closely. Studies show here Dr. John Gottman, a clinical psychologist and a professor at the University of Washington, found while conducting a research on couples that conversations generally end poorly when they start out harshly. In fact, the first 3 minutes of a conversation often determine its outcome. Emotionally intelligent couples generally speak to one another in a respectful manner, conveying this respect through tone, innotation, and intention. So give
Mhm.
the intention to want to work things out and make sure that you're coming off about what you say and how you say it in an effective manner. Because usually I know tensions could be good and they could be pure, but it might not come off as that. But that's why your tone is part of that equation.
You want your intentions to come off with the attention that you're giving to that person. So let me say that again. You want your intentions to give off into your attention. So that way,
Mm.
the person that is seeing this and they see how attentive you are through that active listening, they see that you acknowledge them. You're listening to them. You're not just twiddling your fingers and looking out in the sky and trying to distract yourself and show that you're not really into it. No, and it's okay to take a couple seconds to look away, but show them that eye contact. Show them that that you can acknowledge them and that they can acknowledge you back. And what you give is what you're gonna get back. So
Mm.
don't be surprised if you're talking to somebody and you're like, and they're not gonna take you serious because now you're just expecting them to fill in the words as you're talking. No, that's not the case. So definitely not even with just friendship and communication, but everything in life, treat it like you want to nurture it, you want to care for it, you want to tender to it. So when you're giving it that attention, your intentions show pure.
Yeah, and I also want to make sure there might be someone out there listening. Oh, that just sounds like they're being petty. No, no. But this, subconsciously, we end up doing things that has been done onto us, and we don't really notice that we're doing it. Like childhood trauma is the main thing. If someone's lifestyle and they've been conditioned a certain way, they're going to more likely do it to their kids. But you have to be aware first before anything comes around and you repeat it. So yes, so that's number two. We have number one, it being friendship. Number two, communication. Now number three, conflict management.
Mm,
Because we always worry about our love languages and how we love one another, but also, how do you fight with one another? What's your fight style? Because naturally, when it comes to arguments, we just want to protect ourselves. It's just part of our F3 response. The
mhm,
fight, the flight, or the freeze. What do you do? A lot of times people are arguing and they keep going with it and they're persistent. Some people run away or some people don't even know what to say. And
mm,
so it's not about finding out who's right. It's about coming down to a mutual agreement. There's no compromise or nothing like that. So worry about how is that person fighting. They could love you all they want, but if they disrespect you every time when it comes to a disagreement, then we have a bigger problem.
mhm. And I think like when it comes to conflict management, it's the idea that you could be passionate, you could genuinely feel a certain way about how a situation may have played out or how somebody may have said something. However, that doesn't mean that just because we're passionate, we have to speak out and feel like we have to liberate this notion. We have to make this known so then that way I'm right, I'm applauded for, I'm respected, I'm acknowledged, all these things. Like now you're being selfish.
Mm.
How does that work in a relationship where you're so passionate about yourself that you don't even care to take the time to listen or even take the time to see how this person may receive this information because you're just making it about yourself. And that doesn't make it any easier. We are human. We do process emotions. We can get lit up and get a fire in our belly and feel that, hey, you know what? No, this I don't like this and you're gonna hear it. Now let this person hear it, also hear them though, hear them out. And if it's always going to be a problem and you always feel like they can't understand you, you have to understand that no one is going to be able to love you the way you love you. So if you want someone to love you the way you want to be loved, so love yourself like that first. The same way we said in the previous episode, when it comes to self-love, you have to dig deep and you have to give the best to yourself because when you think the worst, you get the worst. And when you think the best, Angel knows the rest. So
Mm.
as we all can admit that we have emotions, act right, and even if it takes a couple of bursts and a couple of bad comments get out, just say, hey, if there's one thing I like to say during, let's say, a disagreement, because tensions could be flared, I'll wave the white flag. All right, we need to talk about this later. I'm not in the best position right now. So I always think of, like,
Yes.
I always announce I'm waving the white flag. I would like to say that because I think it's an indicator, like, hey, or think of it like a safety word. You know what I mean? You got Kevin Hart saying pineapples, white flag. Boom, I'm good. All right, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I suggest that you guys should try, if not white flag, then try something similar to that. So then that way maybe that can be an escape key to getting out of a bad situation where something this could be resolved, but not like this.
Right. I love that. And I completely agree, especially when you was talking about no one can love you like you love yourself. And it's more of saying when you're able to be that representative and represent yourself a way that you like being loved, the way that you show yourself, you are an example on how you respect yourself. So when other people see and how you treat yourself, how you have boundaries, how you talk to yourself and all those things, that's how they're going to treat you. And it's not to say that they're being petty or they're copying or they're being ignorant. No, it's just a subconscious thing. We are naturally influenced by the smallest things. I just want to say if you sit next to a window, someone is more likely to be open to you because you're next to a window and it indicates open, right? It doesn't have to be open, but it opens out to the outside world when you're indoors. So I just wanted to say that. And yeah, no, that's very important. Like being that representative and just making sure that you're not always gonna assume the worst in anything and work on yourself is important. So that was number three, conflict management. Now we're going into number four, which is important, and we've heard this plenty of times, right? So, how are you when your partner is around? The best loyalty is when they're not around. When they're in front of you and you guys are hanging out, okay, it's easy to show it, but how are they when they're not around? You got to look at it like that. And so for yourself, right? Think about how you think. Are they negative thoughts? Are you feeling dependent on them where you feel like you always need to be around them? It's okay to miss them, but like how bad is that urge where it's like, I just can't control myself or whatever. I need attention. Then it's just like that's you need to work on some solitude there because you shouldn't ever feel the need of any attention. Like that's that shouldn't be something you derive in. And or you can also have this thought that where are you thinking about what they're doing? Are you thinking about what they're if they're doing something to you? You need to think about those thoughts and be like, okay, let me like chill out real quick. I don't have any information to come like conclude to it. Although
Yeah,
if I have these thoughts, let me not jump into anything.
yeah, and as Angel was saying that, I hope for those that have made it this far in the video, or at least listened to our new episode, I think that when we need to think about ourselves, especially how our loyalty is not even just to them but also ourselves. Why don't you take the time right now to write down a couple of things you could appreciate that you're capable of? Take the time to appreciate certain things that you know that's in your control, because we can only control with what's in our grasp. What are some things that we're capable of? Because we can focus on what is possible. Like we could definitely have a conversation, 5, 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Hey, we could even have a whole day about it. But what's more probable to happen? And something that's more probable to happen are things that, if you respect yourself, if you love yourself, and also if you can communicate, listen, and have respect, set boundaries, we know that you can have a healthy relationship. And there's so many other things that go into what it takes to be a genuine human being and also capable of having relationships and friendships. But do the little things first, and you'll go a long way.
Absolutely, yes. So now we go into number five and how you have this perspective that you give yourself or when you're thinking that goes for number five, it being opportunistic perspective. And I always like
Mm.
to say life is what you make it. So when you assume the worst, you get the worst, like Tyler was saying, and then to finish it off, when you assume the best, you get the best. And so when
Hmm.
we view the challenges in relationships as opportunities rather than problems, then that's when you can flourish. That's when you can grow and be like, okay, I know this happened. This is temporary. This is not going to last forever. Let's get through this and work together as a team and let's not break this us down. I want to make sure that we we keep on flourishing, we keep growing because I value this, I value us. So I'm not going to have anything break us down, because when you don't have to blame each other for your emotions and you're not controlled by negative emotional memories, triggers, then you are a lot more reflective now. You're more aware. You know that this has nothing to do with them. And you can think to yourself, like, okay, why do I feel this way? Is it them? Did they do anything? Or is it just like something that's bothering me that's happened to me before? And you then realize that the differences that you have between you and your partner are different. And that invites them to come onto the common grounds of finding a solution. And
Mm.
when you come to this solution, it gets a lot easier going on forward the longer that you are in a relationship with them, to not always be so reactive when things really hit rock bottom.
And I genuinely believe, right? So as Angel's saying all that, I'm like I said, I'm thinking, right, and I'm just on the go, and I'm like, okay, cool, cool. I believe that arguments are more like a roller coaster, and depending on how those arguments, or let's say a discussion is going through, right? We could think about it like this: if it is a problem, and you guys are both arguing, yelling, disrespectful, disruptive, no intention at all, like you're just going mindlessly, you're going on the roller coaster, no seatbelts, no nothing, you just got the handlebar. So when you reach that decline and you start dropping, your legs is gonna be flailing in the air because you ain't got nothing holding you down. You're holding onto the bar, but nothing's holding you down.
Mm.
But when you're doing it the right way, and let's say even mentioning waving the white flag or being able to have a difficult conversation, start high tempered because you're emotional, but you work your way in, like, hey, you know what? I'd like to talk about this for real. Let's just ask each other questions and really dig deep and see what the real issue is. Now you're going safe, you're going protected, you're riding the roller coaster with your seatbelt, you're riding the roller coaster with the handlebar there for you, and hey, you might even have a buddy next to you that can enjoy the experience with you. Angel knows what I'm talking about. We've been to Six
Mm-hmm.
Flags, but the whole point of the fact that problems are only problems to people who only view it as a problem. And when it's not a problem anymore, and like Angel said, it's an opportunity, or even this is a chance, or even a breakthrough, because we're breaking through this together. So the same way we can look in the same direction and have the same goals and have the same ideas, we can also break through this barrier that's preventing us to be who we truly are. We need to get through it by talking, though, because yelling, being rude, swearing at each other, name calling, you statements instead of I statements.
Yes,
It tortures you. It tortures you because you're being tortured on the inside because of something that hurts. Stop hurting.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah, guys. So these were the 5 finger discounts so that you can make sure that you are more emotionally intelligent, you are more flourishing in your relationships, because it's important. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. It could take a year, 2 years. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own pace. And I really encourage you guys to be more aware of your emotions so that you can be more effective in your relationships with communication, being intimate, being vulnerable, and it doesn't make you weak, especially as a man. We need to do that together. If you guys liked what you heard on this episode, please leave a, because it'll help us out. You can also comment down below any of your thoughts, and we also post on Instagram at the.rallycry.podcast. You could DM us what you learned there, and we can share on the experience. And until next time,
Think clearly.
and one
Step.
at a time. Peace.